Well, it's been a pretty long day, and tomorrow's not going to be any less hard because I got deadlines to meet, and my poor editor has only got a short time to correct whatever I've got left, so it's half done. The new book's going to be over 500 pages, half edited now, but you know, it takes a while to go over the corrections on, so it'll be probably a couple of weeks at least until before it's out. And since I have had a long day, I'm now having one of my favorite drinks. That's something that I've invented that I think I gave it a name to the Dread Ilk. I think I called it a Nova, which is basically just slices of peach inside tequila. And you know, a naked umbrella. Anyway, the big thing on the internet today is the banning or the deletion of the YouTube of Stefan Molyneux. And I wanted to make a little comment about that, or three. First of all, I need to say I've never spoken to Stefan, and I probably never will. I've tried to watch some of his videos, and I've got nothing against the man. I think, you know, he's probably a good guy doing a good thing. Yeah, I've got nothing bad to say about him, except that I can't watch his videos because I find him extremely boring. It's not that he speaks even that slowly. I mean, I speak pretty slowly. Vox certainly speaks slowly. But you see, Vox has got thoughts that are interesting. The thing that I find absolutely mind-numbing with Stefan is that I can pretty much predict what he's going to say about 15 sentences ahead of him doing it. And plus, the concepts that he talks about are absolutely obvious as far as I could tell. So, just, you know, from a personal point of view, I've got no interest in his channel at all. I've tried several times. People sent me links, and I tried to look at them, and it's just like not for me. Another point that makes me, you know, pretty much not pay attention to him is that whole libertarian atheist and that whole DIFU. You know, what does DIFU stand for again? It's like I'm just gonna Google it. But it's basically like he doesn't agree that so disavowing any kind of connection with your parents. And the urban definition is, I think, the best. Disavowing any kind of connection with your parents, like some whiny emo pussy. It's kind of, I think that's a good definition. You know, the whole like, oh no, I've got nothing to do with my parents, and children shouldn't be raised by their parents. They should be raised in logic and reason. Well, a lot of shit. And again, I think he's an atheist or atheist adjacent or something. You know, I mean, I was an atheist for a while, from about the age of 7 to 19. And then reality, maths, biology, physics, all pretty much made it absolutely clear that atheism, random chance creating the universe just doesn't work. It's not possible. So I was basically an agnostic for a long time, you know, but I'm a pretty smart guy, and I guess Stefan probably is quite smart. I don't know. I'm sure most people think he's very smart. I don't really, because I sort of, he's got nothing new, no original thoughts, nothing surprising. There's nothing interesting for me there. But having said all that, you know, I think he's probably a decent guy. But that whole libertarian, you know, non-aggression pact or treaty or whatever they call it, it's not based in reality. He's living in a masturbationary, self-deluded little world, which doesn't exist in the world. In reality, it doesn't exist. And I saw a bit that he wrote somewhere, and then Vox put it on his blog as well. So, the statement that he wrote, or the piece that Vox quotes, is quite. I wanted to comment on it just because as I was reading it, I was like, what? So it starts out. This is Stefan Molyneux. As you may have heard, 14 years of my life, thousands of videos, billions of comments, hundreds of millions of views, and nearly 1 million subscribers have been destroyed, has been erased from YouTube. Yeah, a bit dramatic, but all right. The accusation is the usual one, that I'm fomenting violence and hatred and so on, which is not true at all. I have consistently promulgated the non-aggression principle and called for reason and evidence as the methodology by which we can resolve social disputes and differences. And again, this just makes me shake my head, like, where do you live, dude? You must be Canadian. It doesn't seem to have mattered, of course. The reality is that the book burning is underway. Myself and many other dissidents and anti-communist intellectuals and speakers have also had channels destroyed across a wide variety of platforms within the span of only an hour, in what I assume is a highly coordinated effort to silence us. And it is a blow, don't get me wrong, it's a huge blow, it's a huge challenge. And the goal, of course, is to remove the middle, to remove those of us who are looking for peaceful solutions, rational solutions, philosophical solutions to social differences, to take us out so that there is no center to society and everyone can gravitate to the extremes wherein the tinderbox of violence can be lit in a revolutionary conflagration of brutality. If at this point in time you genuinely think that you're still in the middle, you're a fucking idiot. That's why I don't think he's smart. How on earth can you live in today's day and age and assume that there is a middle left? There isn't. And he continues, and I'm going to strongly urge you, my friends, to resist the temptation. Resist that temptation to go to the extremes, to go to hostility, to go to rage, to go to violence. Now, I will agree with him here that you absolutely should resist the temptation to go to rage. Because in rage, you lose perspective and you start to make mistakes. Now, it's quite clear that the other side has already gone to violence and continues to escalate, trying to foment and create more violence. Now, if you were to go into a rage and react from there, then you're playing into their hands. No. If people want to do you violence and you can see it coming, and we've been seeing it coming for a long time, we know it's coming. There will be war, as the famous writer used to say. There will be war. You know it's coming. So do you fly off into a rage? No. You prepare. Calmly. Coldly. So that when the idiots do decide to attack you, the damage you do to them is orders of magnitude more than what they expect. And when it becomes a hot war, instead of just, this is a skirmish at the moment. It's a very light skirmish. If you happen to be one of the guys that's the focal point of one of the skirmishes, then for you in that particular moment in time, it's become a hot war. And at that point in time, that's when you give it all you've got. The very interesting thing that those two, apparently a lawyer in a nice part of town or whatever, what do they call them? Ken and Karen. Ken and Karen. Two barefoot couple, man with an AR-15, I think it was, some kind of Armalite type weapon, and the woman with a PPK, which I found a very interesting choice, but yeah. Anyway, they stood outside on their lawn, basically protecting their home from so-called peaceful rioters. And lo and behold, their house was left alone. And why is that? Because they were prepared and they were ready, not necessarily in the smartest way, but they were ready. They protected their property, and they said, you come on my property, I'm going to start shooting. And guess what? Most people don't want to get shot. Now, they were under in the open. They didn't have protection. The guy had his wife outside. I don't think that any of those choices were smart, all right? But then I also wouldn't have a house like he does, in a place where he does. If I had his money, I'd be in a different situation. And but the point is, to however badly, they were still prepared to some extent, and they were left alone. Now, take it a notch up. Let's say the rioters do attack anyway, or they're armed as well. They're shooting. They start shooting. You don't even have to start. They start shooting at you, so you got to shoot back. And if you're standing out in the lawn barefoot with your wife, you're going to die, because there's, what, 300 of them? There's one of you. But if you're prepared, you can tell them from the window, shoot out a little rocket from the window saying, hey, don't come here. And then if they do charge the 300 guys, you might not take out all 300. But, if you take out 50 to 1, it's a pretty good ratio. There are actually things like this have happened in Zimbabwe when, they were killed. They killed off all the farmers and they attacked all the farmers. The smart people got out. Some people didn't have a chance. Some people didn't have a choice. And some people just stubbornly refused to leave. One guy who was an ex-Recce, he refused to leave. And literally about 300 armed Zimbabweans attacked his home, his farm. And he fought. They did kill him eventually in the bathtub using a couple of grenades, I believe they had to use to wound him, and he was still in the bathtub, and he still killed a few of them. And eventually they just stormed it with enough guns and people that they eventually got him. But I believe that his tally was 52. One man alone, and he didn't even have fully automatic weapons. He had semi-automatic, I believe. One man alone, 52 he accounted for. I'm not saying I want to die anytime soon, but if I gotta go, 1 to 52, it's not too bad. And if there's 4 or 5 of you, and you all live next to each other, and you train, and you prepare, that's 5 people that can take out 200, maybe more, because you're coordinating. There's also a story of, I think, if I remember right, my memory with names that you guys know by now, Sergeant Hatchcock, I think. He was Marine sniper. They wrote a book about him. But basically him and his sidekick, whatever, the guy that goes with the spotter, him and the spotter, they held off like a platoon of people for like a day. That's because they're prepared. See, if you're in a reactive mode where you're thinking, oh, I'm the victim, I'm going to get jumped. No. See, it's the difference between somebody who's walking around at night scared of the dark and somebody who's walking around at night hoping to find some trouble. Now, I guess I've been both. When I was very young, I'm talking when I was maybe 4 or 5 years old, and we used to live in my grandma's big house that used to be an old convent, actually. It was converted, and it had these long corridors, creaky doors and stuff. So, when you had to 4 or 5 years old, you're going down one of these old corridors, there's wind, there's like noises, it's an old house, an old convent, makes noises. There was rumors of like ghost nuns that used to roam the corridors and whatever. I never saw them, so. But even as a kid, what worried me wasn't ghosts and monsters and shit like that, because I knew that didn't exist. What worried me was a crazy fucker with an axe. That worried me. I was like, fuck, what if a mad person got into the house, So I was pretty rational even as a kid. And as a kid, it was kind of right to be scared, because, if a 6'2" madman with an axe was in the house, there's not a lot you can do if you're 4 or 5 years old except run and hide and hope he doesn't see you. But later in life, when I was in my 20s, and I used to go for walks late at night, to think. I've always been a bad sleeper, so, and I like the night. I like being out in the night. I walked through cemeteries, I walked through different places to the beach. I went for a swim more than once in the middle of the night, you know, like 12, 1 in the morning. Nobody knows I'm out there, and I'll just go as far as I can until I can just see the lights of the land back. And that was just relaxing for me. And you know, I don't like the idea of sharks. I gotta admit, I hate that thought. But I don't know, it didn't bother me. It was like worth the risk. It was like, I'm just gonna swim out into the sea as far as I can until I can just see the lights of the, you know, back on land, so I know how to get back. And the feeling was like, you know, I never felt scared in the dark in all those situations. And I lived in a country, by the way, in South Africa, where there's a very good chance of you getting mugged in the middle of the night if you're just walking somewhere where there's, you know, there's not many witnesses there. There was no cameras, you know. But my feeling was always like, oh, well, you know, because I was ready. I was always generally armed most of the time. And I think, well, you know, I've always thought like that. What if, it's like samurai thinking, right? If you prepare, when it happens, you're ready. And it was like, sometimes I'd get the idea, like, well, what if you get jumped by a whole bunch of people and, you know, there's a lot of them. And I'd be like, at first I'd sort of think about it and think, oh, would I be worried? And then I thought, no, that's not the right attitude to have. The right attitude to have is like, I would literally feel like I'm the wolf. If like a bunch of muggers come and try and mug me, I'm the wolf. They're the sheep. They just don't know it. You know, they think they're the wolves, but I'm like a super fucking werewolf. They have got no idea what's waiting for them. I mean, and in England, when I first got here, I did used to walk around at night. Then I realized, but this is completely peaceful compared to where I lived and where I came from. This was like completely safe. I didn't have, obviously, no guns in England, so no weapons. But, you know, I trained all my life pretty much. So I used to walk through parks on purpose, just thinking, well, let's see if somebody tries to mug me, you know. And I was always very disappointed that nothing happened. I mean, the one time that, well, 2 times actually. One time that something did happen was, I saw this couple getting harassed by like 4 or 5 guys that had in a car. They'd stopped the car, they come out and they started giving them shit. And they were, you know, maybe 100 meters away, and I saw it happening, and I thought, no, let me just quickly, you know, I don't want them to see me. I want to sneak up on them, sort of thing. But it was in the middle of the road, so I thought, no, I'll just keep walking on my side of the road, looking down, so like I'm just a guy walking past. Don't want to get involved, right? But then as I got close, I was like maybe 30 meters away. I thought, right, I'm close enough now. I'm just going to cross the road using the car kind of to shield me a bit, and then I can get right up to them. And as I started to cross the road towards them, I don't know if the guy in the car called out or whatever, but one of them turned and they saw me. And there was 4 of them. I think there was 4 of them plus 1 in the car. One of them saw me like walking towards them, and he was like, oh, they all quickly just ran to the car, got in the car and drove off. And I was like, come on, guys, there's 5 of you. Just at least give me a chance, you know. Maybe I'm just a mild-mannered accountant. And the couple was like, oh, you know, I said, you okay? Yeah, no, thank you, you know. But it was like, that's about the only thing I saw. I was like, what the hell? So this is why I'm telling you that story. It's not to blow smoke up your ass, but the thing is, you know, you read this and it's like, resist the temptation, you know. It's not too late. There is still incredible technology that you can use to further the rational and philosophical discussions of issues within society, and I'm begging you, please stay in the conversation. Incredible technology? Yeah, I just saw today actually on Wikipedia. I don't remember how I got there, but I just saw today that there is a 50 caliber round that is an explosive round. And I asked my American friends, you know, is that something civilians can get? You know, just out of curiosity. And they told me, well, you know, technically no. Only the military can get that sort of thing unless you have one of these forms, which you would have to fill 1 inch for every single bullet. But one of the guys had shot it in training, and it's like, it's awesome to see it burning through you know, the side of an armored vehicle, and he just zips through it and then sets it on fire, sort of thing, from the inside. It's just beautiful. Yeah, that's amazing technology. And you bet that that amazing technology can communicate in the right way to the people that are trying to do all the things that they're trying to do in their violent, evil ways. That will communicate all sorts of things to them very quickly. And even their friends that only see what happens will be instantly converted into having different thoughts. What else does he say? It is my dedication and my foundational goal to maintain and possibly even grow this philosophical conversation despite the inevitable blowbacks that philosophers always receive from the powers that be. So please help me out. Dude, you have got no idea. Inevitable blowbacks? If you were actually effective, they'd be fucking killing you, right? I know he's got a lot of followers, but man, you know, most people are idiots. It's going to be a pretty harsh winter and a pretty big reorientation. I'm going to beg you, please, my friends, to go to freedomain.com. Help me out. I will come back stronger and better, and we can avoid the escalation that could burn us all to the ground. No, buddy, the escalation isn't going to burn us all to the ground. It'll burn some of us to the ground. But some of us might even thrive. And another interesting point is Vox's comment on that. And Vox comments, I very much like Stefan. I admire him. He's a smart man. He's a good man. He has good intentions and a good heart, but he simply does not understand the times. The time for conversation is over. While it may take two to tango, it only takes one to war. This is not a time for peaceful, rational, or philosophical solutions. It is, rather, a time to know your enemy, to know yourself, and to embrace the inevitable conflicts to come. So, gentle readers, what is your profession? And then he puts a link there to the little clip from the movie 300, where the King Leonidas asks the other Greeks, what is your profession? Oh, I'm a blacksmith. You, I'm a farmer. Oh, you, I'm a sculptor. And then he asks his guys, what is your profession? And they're like, wow. Yeah, but I mean, you know, that Vox's reply also highlights why, you know, I've said this before, that Vox is a strategist. He's, if you've read von Clausewitz on war, he talks about 4 different types of people. I don't remember the exact name that he uses in the book, but you know, one of them is the general, and another one is kind of like the captain or whatever. You know, Vox is general material because he has the ability to very much distance himself from the personalities involved, the details. You know, Vox can have alliances with people I wouldn't have coffee with. To be fair, he probably wouldn't have coffee with them either, unless, you know, it's to make sure that he can have an alliance. So, and it's not dishonest. You know, some people think that that is duplicitous or hypocritical or something. It's not at all. It's literally seeing the bigger picture. And I'm absolutely sure that he means exactly what he says. He does like Stefan, and he thinks he's a smart man, and so on. I remember a conversation I had with Vox, actually, one of the times I was at his place. And I said to him, you know, he told me right from the beginning, right from even before we met, he told me I'm a very patient man. And I have absolutely seen that that is completely true. I mean, for a start, the guy, I think he's got a degree in economics, which, believe it or not, I started economics, an economics degree. I lasted about 2 weeks when I realized this shit has got no relationship to reality and it's all fake and I can't deal now. And that's why I went to do engineering, because that's real. But the fact is, he is a very patient man, and I remember asking him, how on earth could you write a whole book on Jordan Peterson, Jordan Ethics, and read through the fucking volume? You read his book, you actually read Maps of Meaning, and then you read the other one as well, the 12 Rules of Life or whatever. How the fuck, mate? It's like, what the hell? I think I would literally rather watch paint dry. And he said, no, but you have to, because you have to understand the position. And I said, Jesus Christ, but fuck, we're as smart as each other. Like, once you pointed out a couple of points. Once I read, all I needed to read about Jordan Peterson was the letter he wrote to his father. Once you've read that, it's absolutely blatantly obvious that the man is completely insane and an absolute narcissistic egomaniac. It's beyond what you sort of think it could actually be. And I know that Vox is smart enough to see that. And I was like, and how can you say that he's smart? The guy's crazy, he's not fucking smart. And, Space Bunny, Vox's wife, understood what I meant. Because he said, no, but, again, Vox is being very rational. He was like, no, but, the guy is smart because he's managed to weave together a semi-coherent patchwork of lies that has fooled a whole bunch of people into following him and giving him money, and he earns, a lot of money every month doing this. And I was like, I was kind of feeling almost like, but you're missing the point. And and Space Bunny understood and said, no, what he's saying is like, you can see the same stuff in 5 minutes. And Vox's reply, if I remember correctly, was, yes, I can see it, and you can see it, and he can see it, but the average guy that's following him can't see it, so I have to explain it to them. And it's like, and it's also funny to me that he links to the What Is You Up to, the Sparta movie, to the 300 film clip, because if you meet Vox, he's a very personable character. He's very polite, he's very measured in his speaking, and he's funny. He's got a very dry sense of humor, but he's very friendly, amicable. He's really a nice man. He's a really nice guy. If you only know him through his blog, you'd think that he was a vicious, evil man, but he really isn't. And the thing is that, he hardly ever uses crude language. Really is sort of a refined, what he says he is. He calls himself a literary snob, and he is. I mean, the books that he enjoys reading are good books, but the reason that he enjoys reading those particular books is because of the grammatical, literary, shall we say, refined language that is used. When I read a book, I almost don't notice that stuff. I'm interested in the idea or the facts or the thing that's happening. And that, again, is very much a difference between a general type and a captain type. I don't really care about the whole global war because that's too big. I'm not going to really change too much of that, which is not necessarily true. I might, but it's not really my focus. My focus is just the areas I can see and control, and that takes action, and immediate action, and immediate, okay, how do I do that? While he's more like, what can we conceive? How do I do this? He's more like, what can I conceive? It's broadly different things, although we're very much aligned in many of our views and so on. And again, you see, I find it quite interesting because he obviously sees a value to Stefan, which, admittedly, he obviously has a value. I'm not stupid. The guy's got 100 million followers or whatever it is. That's obviously got a value. But I'm not interested in it because it's not my thing. I don't really enjoy it. And while I would see value in a guy like my friend Uldis, who is to a certain extent human wreckage, because the guy's pretty penniless. He's taught system most of his life. he's got the business acumen probably of a drunk gibbon. So he's never gonna make money, and but he's an outstanding, loyal guy. If the proverbial crowd of 300 comes to crash my door, and I get to make a call while I'm hacking away, I'd call him, and he would come. But Vox probably wouldn't even enjoy his company that much, because he's quite a crude guy. He certainly has got no literary aspirations or necessarily even understanding. He speaks in broken English. He's got a very funny sense of humor, but it's very Slavic, which I'm not sure whether Vox would necessarily appreciate. I do. And but I could easily spend an evening talking shit with Uldis, and it would be a great evening. And I can just as easily, by the way, spend an evening talking shit with Vox, and it's a great evening too. But I think Vox would be bored to tears by a guy like Uldis. Just like I'm bored to tears by a guy like Stefan. That doesn't mean that they're bad people or they're not useful or whatever, But yeah, and the ultimate point that I wanted to say with Stefan is that whole libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, or whatever he defines himself as, non-aggression principle. What a load of shit. What is the non-aggression principle? I mean, if a guy's, roaming in my garden with a rifle and he's looking to see if there's any open doors, I'm supposed to just let him carry on because, well, he hasn't actually done anything aggressive to me. So what do you? Well, he's entered your property, so you can react, but it has to be proportional. No, listen. Somebody breaks into my house, and I'm in the house, and I catch him in my house. The assumption, and by the way, this is also, I believe this is biblical law. If somebody breaks into your house and you're in your house, the assumption is that he is there to kill you, because a thief would break into your house when you're not in the house. Somebody who breaks into your house when you're in it is willing to murder you to get away. Therefore, he is, by definition, an attempted murderer, and that's how you should treat him. I'm not going to ask some guy at 3 a.m. that's like broken into my place, when I, especially in South Africa, whatever, when I was in there, some guy broke into my house at 3 a.m. You think I'm going to ask him his name? No. I will just dispose of the body in an ecologically accurate fashion when I'm done. It's like, and what Stefan doesn't understand is there is no middle. There never was. There never ever has been a middle, by the way. There's only been the illusion of it. Because it was peacetime and there was no trenches, people just assumed that, we can mingle. Yeah, you can mingle, but guess what? Once the first shot is fired, everybody goes back to their trenches. And a lot of people have been mingling so long, they don't even know which side their trench is on. They don't even know where their trench is. They might not even have a trench. I do. I've always had one. Always had a trench in back of my head. I know exactly where my trench is. So, think on that a little bit. And yeah, if you get cancelled, if you get deplatformed and whatever, fine, you prepare for that. You should be prepared for that. You have to prepare for that. I'm prepared for that. And I'm one guy with very little time to prepare for that sort of thing. But I'm very prepared for that. I expect I'll be kicked off YouTube anytime soon. And when and if it happens, I will enact Plan B. And if Plan B fails, I'll enact Plan C. Because you should have at least a couple of backup plans. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say on that. And yeah, a bit rambling, but I haven't even had my whole Nova drink. So good night, because I've got an early start. I've got to hit those deadlines with the corrections. And have yourself a good week.